Every football superstar has a beginning. Not inside a stadium packed with 80,000 fans. Not beneath fireworks. Not with cameras chasing every touch. It begins somewhere much quieter. A street, a park, a dream that almost nobody else can see. From Michael Olise. That dream was born on the 12th of December 2001 in London, England. A city where football isn't just a sport. It's a language, a heartbeat, a way of life. But Michael's story was different from the very beginning. His roots stretched far beyond England. His father came from Nigeria. His mother carried both French and Algerian heritage. 3 cultures, 3 identities. One boy, long before he wore the colors of France. Before Bayern Munich, before the Premier League, before millions of fans learned how to pronounce his name. He was simply a quiet child with a football at his feet. While other children rushed to show off tricks, Michael watched. He observed. He learned. He understood something many players never do. Football wasn't only about running faster. It was about thinking faster. Every pass could tell a story. Every touch could create space. Every second carried an opportunity invisible to everyone else. That calmness would become his greatest weapon. But talent alone has never guaranteed success. The journey was never smooth. Michael entered the famous Chelsea Academy while still a young boy. For many children, that is the dream. They imagine wearing the badge forever. They believe the hardest part is getting in. Sometimes, the hardest part is staying. Chelsea released him. Just like that. For many young footballers, that moment becomes the end of the story. Dreams disappear. Confidence vanishes. Another gifted player fades away before anyone even knows his name. But rejection has a strange way of revealing character. Some people hear, "You're not good enough." Others hear, "Not yet." Michael chose the second voice. Instead of giving up, he kept moving. He joined Manchester City's academy. Another opportunity, another chance to grow. But football can be brutally unforgiving. His time there also came to an end. Released again, twice, before adulthood. Imagine hearing that your dream isn't enough. Not once, but twice. Many people would have walked away. Many families would have encouraged a safer path, a different career, a different future. But Michael wasn't chasing comfort. He was chasing possibility. Because somewhere inside him, he believed his story had not yet been written. There was something special about the way he saw football. He didn't force the game. He invited it to him. He didn't sprint because everyone else sprinted. He waited. He scanned the pitch. Then, with one effortless touch, the impossible suddenly looked simple. The patience would later confuse defenders across Europe. But at that moment, almost nobody noticed. No headlines, no television cameras, no transfer rumors. Just another teenager trying to keep a dream alive. History often celebrates the trophies, the goals, the standing ovations. But history rarely remembers the lonely mornings, the bus rides to training, the silent disappointments, the conversations that ended with, "We're sorry, but we've decided not to keep you." Those moments shape champions far more than medals ever can. Every rejection hardened his belief. Every setback sharpened his vision. Every closed door quietly prepared him for one that would soon change everything. Because somewhere outside the spotlight, one club was about to see what others had missed. Not the biggest, not the richest, but perhaps the most important club in Michael Olise's entire journey. A place where talent would finally meet opportunity. A place called Reading Football Club. And that is where the real story begins.
Sometimes, success doesn't arrive wearing a crown. Sometimes, it arrives disguised as one final chance from Michael Olise. The chance was called Reading Football Club. No worldwide headlines. No £1 million expectations. No cameras waiting outside the stadium. Just a club willing to look beyond rejection, while others saw a player who had been released twice. Reading saw something else. A football brain. A player who could slow the game down without stopping it. Someone who didn't chase the ball, he invited it. Training became his classroom. Every session was another lesson. Not about becoming famous, about becoming better. He wasn't the loudest player. He didn't demand attention. His football spoke before he ever did. Coaches noticed his awareness. Teammates noticed his vision. The ball seemed to obey him. A defender would step forward. One shoulder drop, one delicate touch. Suddenly the defender was gone. Not because Michael was the fastest, because he had already seen the next move before anyone else. Football isn't always won with speed. Sometimes, it's won with intelligence. Years of rejection had taught him patience. Now, that patience was becoming power. Then came the moment every academy player dreams about. March 2019, only 17 years old. Reading handed Michael Olise his senior debut. It lasted only a few minutes to the world. It looked insignificant, but to Michael, those minutes meant everything. Every disappointment, every academy release, every lonely training session, every doubt, they had all led to this. He had finally become a professional footballer. The dream was alive, but earning a debut is very different from earning respect. The championship is one of football's toughest leagues. Week after week, physical battles, relentless pressure, no room for passengers. Young players often disappear. Michael did the opposite. He grew. Every match revealed something new. A pass nobody expected. A first touch that killed impossible balls. A through ball that split entire defenses. Supporters began arriving early. Not just to watch Reading, to watch number 7. His confidence wasn't loud. It was quiet. Dangerously quiet. Because while defenders waited for explosive pace, Michael was already thinking 3 passes ahead. Then came the season that changed everything. The 2020-21 campaign. Football finally met the version of Michael Olise he had always imagined. Goals, assists, match-winning performances. Every week, he looked more complete. Every week, another scout appeared in the stands. The Premier League was watching. Europe was watching. The football world was beginning to ask, who is Michael Olise? His creativity became almost impossible to measure. He wasn't simply creating chances. He was creating moments. Moments that lifted supporters out of their seats before the ball even reached the net. At just 19 years old, he finished the championship season with 7 goals and 12 assists. More importantly, he was named the EFL Young Player of the Season. The same boy who had once been told he wasn't good enough was now being celebrated as one of England's brightest young talents. What a beautiful contradiction. Football had rejected him. Now football wanted him back. But success creates a different kind of pressure. The small stadiums were disappearing. The
The expectations were growing. The Premier League had come calling. Bigger crowds, bigger defenders, bigger dreams among all the clubs interested. One believed they had found a future star. One club was ready to give Michael Olise the biggest stage of his career. A club where eagles fly, and where one quiet young man would soon make the entire Premier League stop and watch. Crystal Palace was waiting.
Dreams don't become reality the moment you reach the Premier League. That's where a different journey begins. Because the Premier League doesn't care about potential. It asks only one question: can you deliver? In the summer of 2021, Crystal Palace answered that question with a bold decision. The club activated Michael Olise's release clause from Reading, a teenager who had never played a single minute in England's top division, was suddenly surrounded by some of the world's best footballers. The stadiums were bigger, the cameras were closer. Every mistake would be replayed 1,000 times, every brilliant moment remembered forever. Many young players arrive in the Premier League trying to prove they belong. Michael arrived with something different: patience. He wasn't trying to become the star overnight. He understood that greatness isn't built in one match. It's built one decision at a time. One pass, one touch, one performance. Training under manager Patrick Vieira became another turning point. A football legend was now guiding a player whose best years were still ahead of him. Vieira didn't ask Michael to become someone else. He encouraged him to become the best version of himself. Play with freedom, play with courage, play with imagination. And Michael listened. His first season wasn't about statistics, it was about learning. Learning how quickly defenders close space. Learning how to protect the ball under pressure. Learning that every opponent studied your strengths before kickoff. Then something changed. The confidence that had carried him through Reading began to shine again. Defenders discovered something frustrating. Stopping Michael Olise wasn't easy. He could drift inside onto a stronger left foot. He could stay wide and deliver a perfect cross. He could slip a pass through the smallest gap or beat a defender without looking rushed. He played football like a chess master, always one move ahead. Supporters at Selhurst Park began to expect the unexpected. Every time Michael received the ball, the stadium leaned forward, because something special might happen. Not every player creates excitement before touching the ball. Michael did. Then came the moments that turned admiration into belief. Free kicks curled beyond helpless goalkeepers. Assists landed perfectly at a teammate's feet. Goals arrived with elegance rather than power. He wasn't chasing highlight reels, yet somehow he kept creating them. His partnership with Crystal Palace's attacking players became one of the most entertaining in the league. Defenders doubled up against him. Sometimes even that wasn't enough. Commentators began using the same words again and again: creative, elegant, special. But perhaps the greatest compliment wasn't spoken. It was shown. Every weekend, the opposition changed their tactics because of one player, Michael Olise. The same boy who had once been released twice was now forcing Premier League managers to rewrite their game plans. Then came another challenge: injuries. Football has a cruel habit of testing players just when everything seems perfect. Muscle problems interrupted his momentum. Weeks became months. The rhythm disappeared. Questions returned. Would he come back? The same player? Could he reach another level? Michael had answered those questions before. Rejection had taught him resilience. Now injury would teach him patience again. dramatic speeches, no excuses, just rehabilitation, training, recovery, belief. And when he returned, he reminded everyone why they had waited. The assists came again, the goals followed. His performances became impossible to ignore. By the end of the 2023-24 season, Michael Olise had established himself as one of the Premier League's most gifted attacking players. Europe's biggest clubs weren't just watching anymore. They were preparing offers. Because talent like this doesn't stay hidden forever. Crystal Palace had given him wings, but eagles were never meant to stay in one place. Across the English Channel, a giant of European football was searching for its next creator. A club where pressure is measured in trophies. A club where only the very best survive. The phone rang, and this time, it wasn't another academy telling Michael Olise he wasn't good enough. It was one of the biggest clubs in world football. Bayern Munich was calling.
Some transfers change a player's club. Others change his life. In the summer of 2024, the phone call every footballer dreams about finally arrived. Not from an ordinary club. Not from a club hoping to compete, from a club expected to win. Every single season, Bayern Munich. The giants of Germany. 6 European Cups, countless league titles. A club where history hangs from every wall, and expectations are heavier than any trophy. Michael Olise wasn't arriving to learn. He was arriving to perform. For many players, that pressure can become a prison. At Bayern Munich, second place feels like failure. One poor match becomes tomorrow's headline. One mistake echoes across Europe. Millions of fans expect brilliance every weekend, but Michael had spent his entire life preparing for moments like this. Every rejection, every injury, every doubt. They had built a player who didn't fear pressure. He understood something important. Pressure is simply proof that people believe you can do something extraordinary. From his very first matches in Bavaria, there was no panic, no rush to impress. Just the same calm football the world had fallen in love with. The first touch, still effortless. The vision, still breathtaking. The left foot, still capable of unlocking doors defenders didn't even know existed. The Bundesliga quickly discovered what England already knew. Michael Olise doesn't force football. He lets football come to him. And when it does, magic usually follows. The Allianz Arena became his new stage. More than 70,000 voices. Red shirts everywhere. Champions League nights under bright lights. This wasn't simply football anymore. It was theater. Every assist lifted the crowd. Every goal carried greater meaning, because at Bayern, winning isn't celebrated, it's expected. Then came the partnership that excited supporters. Experienced stars around him, world-class talent beside him. For the first time in his career, Michael wasn't carrying hope alone. He was surrounded by players who understood exactly what it meant to chase trophies. Week after week, his confidence grew. His passes became bolder. His movements became sharper. Defenders knew what was coming, yet somehow, they still couldn't stop it. A gentle touch inside, a quick glance, one perfectly weighted pass. The crowd erupted. It looked simple, but simplicity is often the hardest thing to master. Soon, the conversations changed. People were no longer asking, "Can Michael Olise play for Bayern Munich?" They were asking, "How far can Michael Olise go?" The answer seemed to grow
With every performance, football experts praised his intelligence. Former players admired his composure. Supporters embraced him, not because he shouted the loudest, but because he let his football speak. There is a saying in football: class is permanent. Michael Olise was proving exactly why. Yet while club football brought new trophies and unforgettable nights, another dream still waited. A dream that had lived inside him since childhood. His heritage connected 3 nations: England, Nigeria, France. Each one could tell part of his story, but only one would become his football home. When France called, it wasn't simply an invitation. It was destiny. A new jersey, a new responsibility, a chance to represent millions, and standing beside some of the greatest players of his generation. Michael Olise wasn't just fulfilling a childhood dream. He was preparing for the biggest stage football has to offer. The FIFA World Cup, the tournament where heroes become legends, the tournament where history waits for just one unforgettable moment.
Comes a moment when every footballer's story stops being about talent. It becomes about legacy. For Michael Olise, that moment didn't arrive with his first goal or his first trophy. It arrived the day millions of young dreamers began to see themselves in him. A quiet boy who had once been told he wasn't enough, had become proof that rejection doesn't write the ending. Only you do. Standing in the blue shirt of France, the nation his mother represents, Michael wasn't just wearing another jersey. He was carrying generations of history. The dreams of children kicking a ball through the streets of Paris, the suburbs of Lyon, the beaches of Marseille and beyond. Every international match carried a different feeling. There was no club badge, no transfer rumors, no contracts, just a nation, an anthem, a flag, and 11 players trusted to inspire millions. For Michael, this was another opportunity to do what he had always done. Not chase attention, create moments, the moments that make football unforgettable. One impossible pass, one perfectly timed run, one touch that changes everything. Because football isn't remembered by statistics alone, it's remembered by emotion. The silence before a free kick, the roar after the net moves, the tears after victory, the heartbreak after defeat. Michael Olise understood that every time he stepped onto the pitch, he wasn't simply playing football, he was creating memories people would carry for the rest of their lives. By now, the world knew his name, children copied his first touch, young wingers studied his movement, coaches replayed his assists. Defenders hoped they wouldn't be facing him next weekend. Yet through all the attention, one thing never changed: his humility. No unnecessary headlines, no endless arguments, no search for fame. Just football, pure football. The kind that reminds us why we fell in love with the game in the first place. Today, Michael Olise stands among the finest attacking players of his generation, a creator, playmaker, football artist. But perhaps his greatest achievement isn't measured in goals or assists or medals, it's measured in hope. Hope for every child who has ever been overlooked. Hope for every young player released from an academy. Hope for everyone who has heard the words, "You're not good enough." Because somewhere, right now, another young footballer is walking home after rejection. Head down, dream fading, wondering if it's over. If Michael Olise could speak to that child, perhaps he wouldn't give a long speech. Perhaps he'd simply smile, pick up a football and say, keep going. Because the road to greatness is rarely straight. Sometimes it begins with failure, sometimes it begins with doubt, sometimes it begins with doors closing until the right one finally opens. That is the true story of Michael Olise. Not the goals, not the trophies, not the applause, but the courage to continue when nobody was watching. From London's parks to Reading's Academy, from Crystal Palace to Bayern Munich, from rejection to becoming one of Europe's brightest stars. His journey reminds us that football is more than 90 minutes. It's a language of resilience, a game that rewards patience, a stage where belief can defeat fear. And somewhere on another street, another child is chasing a ball, dreaming impossible dreams, not knowing that the next great story has already begun. Because legends are not born when the world starts cheering. They are born the day they refuse to stop believing. This wasn't just a story of Michael Olise. It was the story of every dream that refused to die.